This is a low intensity strength work practice for the lower body that uses your body weight only. So you won't be using any resistance in this workout. We are just using a variety of lower body movement patterns to develop that steady state effort in this phase of the cycle. So we are in the premenstrual and menstrual phases. It's this bridge time where we transition from high hormones, so kind of our peak hormone state, back down to a baseline. And that transition does happen pretty quickly. It's over the course of a couple of days, and that's what signals the onset of a period. So I like to treat this kind of bridge time as a single phase where we're shifting to the energy profile of protect. So we're looking to protect our resources, to protect our energy account, and to engage in practices that protect our bodies. And that's exactly what we're doing for today. I have to say, this is one of my favorite ways to move because it keeps me looking forward to my workouts during this tricky time in the cycle. So I'm not dreading that high intensity because I know it'll be way too hard, exponentially harder than, say, at other times in the cycle. Instead, I get to meet my body exactly where it is in a way that feels really good. So for today, we have 7 different exercises, a combination of symmetrical exercises and single-sided work where we're using just body weight. What that means is we can slow the pace down, we can really dial in the mind-muscle connection to develop the key actions that we're looking for in each of these kind of primal movement patterns. So we'll move through squats, through our hip hinges, and through a variety of lunges using an elevated surface to provide that little bit of challenge. And it's also a way to kind of help us slow down. When we add the balance and we add that elevation, it requires that you take kind of that more fluid pace. You can't move quickly or you'll get thrown off balance. So I love incorporating this added element to help us drop into that lower intensity mode. It's going to keep us in the slower metabolic pathways where we're at about 50% of our maximum exertion, 50% of your maximum heart rate. And that keeps you in more of the fat burning zone, which is kind of what your body is primed for as we make this transition. We are kind of, in addition to seeing the hormones change, we're entering that metabolic shift from high hormone metabolism to low hormone metabolism. So again, these transition periods are something of a wild card. You have to trust your lived experience and really lean into whatever your body is needing in the moment. I also love this one because it has that element of customization because you control the pace. We're not working to a prescribed rep scheme. We aren't lifting any weights. So you get to control the intensity. You get to really kind of refine your practice. And this is part of the artistry of cyclical fitness, is where you are kind of co-creating the experience with your body. You're listening to those signals and responding in the moment. So I'll kind of guide you through some of that practice in today's workout. So again, we have those 7 exercises. This one doesn't have a separate warm-up. We're just using, since it's body weight only, we're using our first round to kind of warm the body, but there will be a separate cool down at the end to kind of stretch things out and send you on your way. So make sure you have an elevated surface. You can use a chair, you can use a staircase, a stool, anything that can support your weight and isn't going to move around. And you want to be able to move both in the frontal plane and in that lateral plane. So you want to have enough room around that elevated surface so that you can move comfortably. And from here, we'll get into our workout. We are going to jump right into this body weight, lower body workout for today. Make sure you have your elevated surface, something like a chair or a stool. You can even use a staircase. We're going to be using that for some added challenge since we are ditching the weights in today's practice. This one, I want to make sure that you're staying around that 50% max effort zone. So it should feel like you're working, but it's sustainable. So you're not breathless by any means. You're paying attention to those signals from your body and adjusting the pace and the intensity as needed as we go. So we have our 40-second working intervals, 20 seconds of rest. We're starting with an overhead squat in 20 seconds. For the overhead squat, make sure that your feet are shoulder width distance apart. All 10 toes are facing forward. We're keeping the spine nice and tall, reaching those arms overhead. If this is too much, you can always take your hands behind your head, but I want you to try and aim for that overhead position with the arms arms straight up. Let's begin now. So we take it down, sit back into that chair, and rise up. So this first round we're using as our warm-up. There won't be a separate warm-up for this workout. We're just getting right into it. So move nice and slow and steady here in the beginning. Then we can pick up the challenge a little bit in the second 2 rounds. We're here for just about 15 more seconds. So notice your alignment here. Make sure you're lifting the chest, not letting it dip forward. Keeping those arms directly overhead. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Coming up to our side step up to a curtsy lunge with the left leg starting. So your foot is completely on that step. You're going to come up into the standing position, step down, and then take that left leg, cross it behind for a curtsy lunge. Let's move in 4, 3, 2, and 1. We step it up without momentum from that bottom leg, step down and across. So this is one I would love for you to slow it down and really focus on mind-muscle connection, focus on activating those legs, step it behind. So we're working both sides in this one. We've got the lateral step up on the left side, and then we come into our curtsy lunge on the right side. As you come into that lateral step up, make sure you're pushing down through that working leg and just letting that opposite leg come along for the ride. We're here for 1 more and rest. So I'll turn my back to you. Apologies just for this next interval as we come into our lateral step up on the other side. So again, that foot is completely planted. It's a nice short step up and also back. Let's go into 1, lift it up. Feel that push into the chair or your bench, your stair, lift it up. And then cross nice and easy behind. So I want you to take this nice and slow. We're in that bridge between cycles here. You're either in the last days or first days of your cycle. So we see things like inflammation on the rise. You might be a little bit on the low energy side. And with that, we're looking to stay in that nice steady place, not too intense, because we want to support that system, that process rest happening in the body. We don't want to contribute to more inflammation. We need to allow for the repair and recovery to happen. Coming into our sumo squat next. So feet are slightly wider than hips width, toes turned slightly out. You're just going to squat straight down and straight up. Let's begin now. Knees track over toes. I want you to really hug the heels into the midline as you come up. So you feel this sort of really lifted quality to the pelvic floor. The chest is staying upright. Again, you've got your knees tracking directly over the toes. So you feel that quality of power without the strain. So we're not overstretching the inner thighs. After this, we're coming into another step up, but this time we'll be facing that surface. 4, 3, 2, and 1. So now you're coming into your step up to a reverse lunge. Same thing here. We're working both sides at once. And I want you to take it nice and slow. So you should be breathing pretty easily, pretty fluidly. You're right at that point where your breathing has to change. Let's begin now. We step it up, come back, reverse lunge. So your 50% threshold is kind of right around the time that you have to start breathing more heavily. So I want you to kind of push up against that point without going beyond. So dialing it back as needed to stay in that Goldilocks zone. We sort of have these different zones in each phase of the cycle that mirror our physiology so that we're training in a way that is optimized for what's happening with our inner chemistry. Last one. And we'll switch sides. So you're breathing a little bit deeper in between to make sure that you're fully recovered. Shaking it out, we'll come into our step up to reverse lunge now on the second side. So again, this is our first round. Is sort of just a warm-up round. Hopefully you're feeling that warmth, that heat from the inside out. We step it up. I like to drive the knee up in that step up. You don't have to do that. Just something that kind of helps the rhythm of the movement for me. Again, you're pushing with that top foot, and the back foot just comes along for the ride. So you're not using that back foot to launch, but instead it's being pulled by that front leg up into position. We're almost through the end of round 1 here, and rest. Our final exercise is going to be a good morning hip hinge. For this one, you'll take your hands behind your head, elbows nice and wide. Just like our overhead squat, feet are going to be shoulder width apart, all 10 toes facing forward. You're folding the body in half at the hip creases. Here we go. Let's begin. Come down halfway and drive the hips up. So we want you to feel that loading of the backs of the legs, and then we explode up. Make sure that you're not overstraining the hamstrings here, that you've got that nice generous bend in the knees, and then you stop right at that neutral point in the pelvis at the top. You're not thrusting the hips too far forward. We're here for just over 10 more seconds. Make sure the weight is forward in the ball mounds of your feet, like your heels want to lift, but then you root down through the heels as well. And rest. Shake it out. We're starting round 2. So this workout is short and sweet. It's body weight only. It's a great way to stay consistent during this somewhat turbulent time in the cycle. If you're experiencing symptoms, maybe you're experiencing that energy dip, it's a way that you can still show up for yourself and your practice. Overhead squat. Come down and up. So here, it's different than the hip hinge. We're keeping the chest upright and not leaning forward. If it's too much in the shoulders, if your shoulders are leaning forward, you can always take the hands behind the head. And the depth of your squat is determined by where you're able to maintain form. So if you start to lose form when the hips come to knee level, maybe you come a little bit higher so that you can keep the chest upright and the arms overhead. Keep the belly drawing in, and you're breathing in and out through the nose. And rest. So this is an intensity that you should be able to kind of maintain that slow and steady breath rhythm. You're not having to breathe through the mouth extensively, but instead you're able to create that very intentional diaphragmatic breath. Lateral step up to a curtsy is next. Here we go. Lift it up, step it down, soft landing, and come behind. Lift it up. You can even draw that knee in, come down, and behind. So I want you to really focus on that slow and soft landing so that you're not dropping down to the ground, but instead you are controlled, nice and easy on the way down. It might slow down your reps a little bit, and that's okay. That's what we're looking for in this phase, is more kind of intentional movement. We don't need to pick up the pace or the intensity. Rest. But we have that steady pace, that continuous effort throughout. Switching sides. So again, I'll be turning my back to you just for this interval. We're going in just under 10 seconds here. Come into position. That foot is flat on the stair or step, and we begin. Take it up, slow landing, cross it behind. Doesn't have to be a big step behind. In fact, it's better to keep that back knee nice and close so it's aiming toward that front heel. You got this. Breathe in and out. I kind of like this movement for kind of determining the pace, because you have to slow it down to land softly. We want to feel that control on the way down and the power on the way up. And rest. Shake it out. Sumo squat is next. So again, your feet are just slightly wider than hips width. We don't want to be so wide that it creates too much strain and that we're unable to tap into muscle activation. Instead, bring it in just a touch, toes are slightly out. Let's begin in 3, 2, 1. So we squat and pull. I want you to feel that hug of the outer glutes, inner thighs to the midline, like you're zipping the legs together as you come up. So that'll really help you get more out of this movement pattern when we don't have the presence of that heavy resistance. You have to find the work, find the challenge by recruiting more muscle engagement. Really contract the glutes at the top. Find your breath. This one is great for tapping into that seed of your power from the hips, and rest. Coming into our step up to reverse lunge next. So we are breathing here, letting that breath rhythm come back down to normal. If you have a heart rate monitor, you're staying kind of in that sweet spot, 120 to 130, maybe even 140, but staying pretty steady below your intensity threshold. So we're wanting to stay kind of just below the point where you have to start breathing very heavy. So you can kind of test this as you move through this workout. Just focus on your breath for a few reps, in through the nose and out through the nose. If that starts to become too labored and you have to breathe through your mouth to make it happen, then you can slow down the pace a little bit, turn down the intensity. This is when your cyclical fitness practice has the potential to impact your experience the most. So we tone down the intensity, we pay attention to the signals from our bodies. It's like making investments in our future self. Let's come into the second side here. Lift it up and step it back. We are getting ready to close out the second of 3 sets. So nice and easy, 21-minute session, just enough to warm you up without wringing you out. So again, connect to the rhythm of your breath, really kind of perform that internal check. It's easy to push past, to just blow past that intensity threshold. Instead, I want you to kind of make that conscious effort to slow it down and rest. Final movement pattern is our hip hinge. So we're bringing the hands behind the head, feet are shoulder width apart. We'll stand up nice and tall, shoulders are directly over the hips. And again, I want you to feel kind of a shift forward with your body weight into the ball mounds of the feet. Let's begin. Generous bend in the knees and come up. So feel that loading and then release. It's like a spring. You're loading it down and then taking all that potential and releasing it to come up. So you have some power in that hip extension from what you're loading in the hip hinge. We're here for 15 more seconds. Keep those elbows nice and wide. It can help you maintain that neutral position of the neck. So you're pressing your head into hands. Last 2 and 1. That is the end of round 2. We have one more just like that. So shake it out. We're coming back to the overhead squat, top of the third round here in about 10 seconds. You might circle out your arms, shake out your legs. We'll move in 3, 2, and 1. Reach it up and stand. So here, you're softening the shoulder blades down the back. You're drawing the front ribs in, lifting up through the chest. Back of the neck is neutral, so you're not gazing up or down, just keeping that neutral position. Let your arms be straight and strong. So you're trying to keep them, the upper arm bones wrapping in towards the ears, trying to get those arms back behind the head if you can. We're here for just 5 more seconds. Make sure your knees are tracking over the toes, that they're not pointing out or in, and rest. Shake it out. Lateral step up to curtsy lunge is next. Shake it out. We'll move in just about 10 seconds. So you have your foot completely flat so that you can load that foot all the way. We're not pushing off from that bottom foot. Let's begin. Come up, soft landing, and step it behind. So I want you to almost make that unloading, so that lowering phase, make that part of the exercise. So it deserves just as much focus as the step up is that lowering phase, keeping the time under tension in that top leg so that you can land softly. It's easier on the joints, which you may experience in this bridge phase, premenstrual and menstrual territory. You might be more prone to things like joint pain when we have that inflammation that rises to prepare the body for your period and rest. So we want to take care in moving toward low impact and making every effort we can to kind of soften those activities that can make our symptoms worse. Let's come into the second side here and begin. So with these soft landings, think about protecting your body. That is the energy profile of this transition phase. We shift into protect mode, where we are using our practice to promote circulation, to kind of increase the availability of endorphins, so improve our mood. So it's not so much about performance, but it's about protecting our energy account as we transition from one cycle to the next. Last one. And rest. Sumo squat is next. Come into position. Turn your toes out, heels in. Make sure that you're moving the back straight up, straight down as the knees track over the toes. You're bending the knees as deeply as you can and then hugging the heels with a lot of power on the way up. We come down, squeeze it in. So I really want you to feel that contraction in the outer glutes, in the inner thighs, pulling those legs like you were trying to step them together, but your feet are fixed. So it's that energetic action that you can't really see from the outside, but you feel it on the inside. Breathe in and out. So feeling that power in your legs, that alignment for the joints, so that there's no strain, only strength. Let's rest for 20 seconds. Then we'll come into our step up, step back. So it's that step up to a reverse lunge. Shake out your legs. Come into position. Same thing here. I want you to control that landing. Let's begin now. We push it up, slow lower, and step behind. Make sure that your chest is staying upright so you're not leaning forward as you step down. Again, we're making that lowering phase kind of an equal part of the exercise. It's just as important as the step up is that step down. This one, a very functional exercise that kind of prepares us for everyday movement, prepares us to engage with our daily activity in a way that is better aligned from a body mechanics perspective and can help kind of conserve our energy when we move more efficiently. And rest. Shake it out. Coming into the second side, we are coming into the end of this workout. We'll go in 3, 2, 1. Step it up. Slow lower down. I want you to imagine almost like you are kind of freezing the movement, moving in slow motion on the way down. So you have that power, and then nice and slow, we land. So you're giving your body time to lower slowly and land softly. Shoulders stay directly over the hips the entire way. So again, you're not leaning forward or back. This one does work, that single-sided balance. So don't sweat it if you feel a little unsteady. That can be a natural side effect of that steep decline in hormones, rest, that we experience during this transition. So if you're struggling with that single-sided balance, feel free to slow it down even more. Coming into our hip hinge next. Final exercise. Let's begin. Take it down halfway and drive it up. Really want you to push down through the feet. Spread the toes so that you're activating from the floor all the way up through that hip extension. Again, you're pressing your head into your hands, opening those elbows wide, keeping the shoulders relaxed. So feel that little bit of lengthening in the hamstrings. And then we power up with that contraction. Squeeze the glutes at the top. We're here for just 5 more seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Shake it out. Walk around. Maybe enjoy a few hip circles here. That is the final round of this workout. So you should be at your baseline heart rate already. We didn't let the intensity get too high. And that should tell you that you're ready to move straight into your cool down. If you're breathing a little bit heavy, maybe trying to catch your breath a little bit, you can enjoy some low intensity dynamic movement before you head to that next phase of the workout. But from here, we'll move into our cool down next. You have just completed your lower body strength work, and now it is time to cool it down. So we're going to start in the center of the mat. We're going to begin with some dynamic movement. In 3, 2, 1, I want you to step out to your side lunge and back to center. So whether your workout was high intensity or low intensity, we're simply going to begin our cool down, meeting the body with some dynamic flow. So a little bit quicker pace here to start before we get into more of the dynamic stretching and finally some static stretching to close it out. So you're in your side lunge here. Last one. We're going to keep the feet nice and wide here. Reach the arms up. And as you exhale, take the hands down. Make sure you're keeping the head level with the heart and hips. We're simply stretching side to side. You can even bend and straighten the legs a little bit, wrapping the inner thighs back in space, shifting onto the ball mounds of the feet to feel that nice hamstring opening here. In about 5 seconds, we're going to turn over that right foot. Come into your low lizard lunge. So nice separation between the thigh bones here. Let's take the left arm up and over to the right. So we feel that deep hip flexor stretch. You can even bend more deeply into that right knee. Nice deep side bend here. And then we're going to come into our runner's lunge. So straighten that leg any amount. Find that forward bend. You can point and flex the foot. Last 2 and 1. Then we're going to take that knee back, come into a kneeling position. Bring your hands behind your head. Open the chest nice and wide. Inhale. And then as you exhale, bring the elbows in, round the spine. Aim your elbows toward your knees. Inhale, open it up, stretch across the chest. Think of this like a kneeling cat and cow. Round the spine, articulate the bones. So you're feeling that wave right up the spine all the way and back. And then we're going to step the left foot forward now. Arms reach up. Take your right arm over to the left. Feel that hip flexor stretch. Bend deeply into the left knee. So I really want you to feel that traction in the front of the right thigh here. Nice deep stretch. And then runner's lunge. So we take the hands to frame the foot. Straighten that left leg any amount. Point and flex the toes. Keep the heart stretching toward that big toe. Feel that nice deep stretch. Then we're going to tuck the back foot in, transition to a seat for seated pigeon. Cross your right ankle over left knee, hug the foot in close. I want you to come onto your finger pads, really stretch up through the chest. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. You can give a little rock side to side. Really stretching the glutes after that lower body strength work here. Slowing the breath down. And then since your right ankle is over top, we're going to lower the knees over to the right. You can uncross the ankle. We're going to take your right forearm behind you, stretch your left arm overhead. So I want you to anchor the inner left knee and really reach in the opposite direction. Maybe cradle the head in that left hand. So you're feeling the quadriceps stretch here, hip flexor once again, and really try to lift and lengthen out of the lower back. So you want lots of space between the bones of the spine. Slowly start to come out, back through center. We'll switch the cross of the legs now. Left ankle over right knee. You can come up onto your finger pads, really hug the heart, belly, chest toward that front shin. Maybe a gentle rock side to side. You might close your eyes and just experience the sensation here. We're trying to slow the rhythm of the breath to send that signal that it's okay for this stretch to be happening. Your body naturally wants to sort of tense up when it feels the tension increasing. And then we'll take the knees over to the left this time, left forearm behind you, right arm sweeps up and arcs back, maybe cradling the head in that right hand, but again, anchoring the inner right knee and trying to create that big, beautiful arc in the opposite direction. Slowing the breath rhythm even more here. So you should be kind of back down to your baseline breath. Come back through center. Let's take the legs wide here. Toes point straight up. I want you to lift the hips, tilt the pelvis slightly forward so that you have that upright spine, and walk the hands out any amount. You might be here and feeling some serious sensation, or you might have to come a little deeper, maybe forearms. Wherever you are, I want you to aim the back of the knee down towards the mat by engaging the quadriceps. So we create that leg, that knee extension, which tones the quadriceps and signals the release of the hamstring inner thighs. Slowly walk it back up. Let's cross at the ankles. Come over your feet and slowly unfold. So deep bend in the knees, roll up bone by bone, nice and easy, taking a moment in each new body position. Shaking out the spine, feeling that sway. Let's take a big breath in and a slow breath out. That is your very quick cool down for this lower body day. If you have more time to spend in static or dynamic stretching, I encourage you to do so. But for now, I just want to thank you so much for showing up for yourself and for your cycle in this way, this powerful way. Thank you for being here and for letting your body be moved.